This week we have Pastor David Hoovler preaching the words of God for us. Pastor Hoovler is the pastor of the adult discipleship in North Olmsted Evangelical Friend Church, where he and his family have been there since 2013. Before following God's calling into the full-time church ministry in 2018, he spent 14 years working in higher education, public relations, and communications. In addition, he and his wife, Ginger, taught and shared hope with their students in China from 2005 to 2008. He and Ginger now have 2 children, Wilson and Joe. This week, Pastor David Hoovler's title of the sermon is Naomi, Bitterness and Blessing. Please, Pastor Hoovler.
Thank you, Jimmy. 你们好. I'm not going to force you to listen to any more Chinese from me.
我也强迫你们在听我的中文。
While my wife and I were in China for 3 years.
我太太和我在中国教书了3年。
We were teaching in Shanxi near Xi'an.
我们在陕西省靠近西安的地方教书。
But unfortunately, my Chinese was never very good.
但是就是我的中文一直不是很好。
And it was 10 years ago.
而且去中国也是10年前的事。
So, thank you very much for the translation.
很高兴有翻译一起同工。
Our time in China was important to us in many ways.
我们在中国的这段时间对我们来讲很重要。
We will never forget our wonderful students.
我们也不会忘记我们那些学生。
Or the amazing food.
食物很好吃。
Or the rich history that was all around us.
还有很长远的悠久的文化。
But God also used that time to bring the Bible to life for me in new ways.
但是也在那段时间呢，上帝让我用不同的眼光、新的眼光来看待圣经上的话。
I think in some ways, the culture of ancient Israel is more like China than America today.
所以，如果你想想看在以色列的当时先前的文化，其实跟中国的文化还比跟美国的文化更相似。
For example, when I read about the crowds pressing in on Jesus.
然后比如说，当我在圣经上读到众人都在拥挤来靠近耶稣的时候。
I now just think of a Chinese train station.
让我想到在中国的火车站有多么的拥挤。
In another way, our city was a little more rural.
我们所居住的城市呢，在中国城市也比较乡下。
And our apartment looked over the small fields on the hills south of town.
所以我们住的地方可以看到在城的南边的一个小小的村庄。
And that connection to traditional farm life helped me to understand many of the stories in the Bible better.
在那里，所以3年的这个环境也让我比较更了解在圣经上所提到的这些故事。
It was the first time I had direct connection with threshing wheat.
我在中国那段时间是我第一次经历到什么叫做拾穗。
So when I read in the Bible about separating the grain from the chaff.
所以当我在圣经上读到要分开那个麦子跟糠皮糠的时候。
I picture the country roads covered in stalks of wheat and the taxi drivers cursing about the straw under their cars.
让我想到在中国，你在在路上呢都堆满了那些大麦，然后那个计程车的士走过去开过去呢，都在那里抱怨这些麦穗。
Now, one of those stories I understand better because of my time in China is the book of Ruth.
那其中在中国的这段时间，让我更对路得记有一个新的认识。
The story is set in the middle of harvest time, and a lot of ancient traditions around the harvest.
这个故事是发生在一个丰收的季节，然后有很多的跟丰收有关系的这些传统。
And like my time there, it's a story about people who are strangers in a foreign land.
也跟我的经历是一样的，在一个异乡，然后是一个陌生人。
To me, Ruth is one of the most beautiful stories in the whole Bible.
对我来说，路得记是圣经当中最美丽的一个章节。
It's an account of faithfulness, friendship, and love.
它叙述着神的信实，还有友谊，还有爱。
And we see strong characters like Ruth, who is hardworking, resourceful, brave, dedicated, and faithful.
我们看到路德他有坚毅的性格，他是非常辛勤的工作，足智多谋，而且很勇敢，也很专一，很有信心的一个女人。
And Boaz is a protector. He values Ruth's character more than her looks.
波阿斯他呢非常的敬佩路德的这些个性上的优点，胜过于他的容貌。
He always seeks to do what is right, trusts God, and accomplishes his goals with skill and wisdom.
他总是来寻求神给他智慧来做判断，什么是对的，什么是错的。
But I think often we don't focus on another person in the story, Ruth's mother-in-law, Naomi.
但是很多时候我们只专注在这个路的这个角色，但是我们忽略了另外一个很重要的角色，就是她的婆婆拿俄米。
I think in many ways her story is even more compelling than Ruth's.
事实上，我觉得在很多方面来说，拿俄米更是引人注目的一个角色。
And as we look at Naomi, I would like us to see that she experiences great loss and great love.
所以，如果你看看拿俄米的经历，她失去了很多，但是呢，她也表现出很多的爱。
There. And she expresses deep bitterness and generous blessing.
她有经历了很深沉的哀痛，但是呢，她也很乐意为人祝福。
And I think we can all learn from her journey.
所以，我想我们今天可以从她的一些经历来学习。
So first, Naomi has experienced great loss.
所以，第一点就是拿俄米呢，她失去了很多。
Facing famine and hunger, her husband took the family away from their town, their friends, and their culture, and went to almost the last place any respectable Israelite would go.
因为饥荒挨饿，她的先生、她的丈夫带他们全家离开了他们的文化、他们的朋友、他们的所住的地方，到了一个以色列人最不会想去的一个地方。
You see, Moab had opposed Israel on their way into the promised land.
摩押呢，他们在以色列人从他们出埃及之后，就一直抵挡他们。
Moab had led Israel astray with idolatry and sexual immorality.
摩押也有很多的崇拜偶像，还有一些犯奸淫的这些罪。
And Moabites were not to join the assembly of Israel for 10 generations.
所以10个世代以来，摩押人都没有来与以色列人在一起。
But Moab is where Elimelech took his family.
但是呢，摩押却是那个拿俄米的先生带他们去的地方。
And it goes downhill from there.
接下来的更是糟糕。
Elimelech dies, and Naomi sees her sons take foreign wives, scandalous Moabite girls.
所以不仅他的以利米勒他过世了，他的2个儿子娶了摩押的女人。
And then after 10 years living in Moab, both of her sons also died.
所以10年之后呢，他2个儿子也过世了。
She is left alone in a foreign country with no means of support.
所以他独自一人在一个异乡，没有谋生的能力。
So she makes the difficult decision to go back to Bethlehem.
所以他决定呢要返回伯利恒。
But on the way, in the middle of her loneliness and her loss, she finds great love.
但即使在如此的境况当中呢，他在他的寂寞跟他的这个失去这么多的当中，他还是有很多的爱来分享。
Ruth holds on to Naomi and won't let go.
路德呢，他不想离开拿俄米。
And we hear in her that great confession of faith and faithfulness.
我们可以从经文上来看到路德来如何诉说他对拿俄米的爱。
That we read earlier.
我们之前刚刚读的。
Notice that Ruth doesn't only profess her love for Naomi and her commitment to her.
就不仅路德对他婆婆诉说他对他的爱，还有他想要跟他在一起这个心愿。
She also confesses her faith in Naomi's God.
她也对拿俄米她婆婆的这个神来表达了她的信心，她的这个信心。
Notice that she doesn't swear in the name of Chemosh, the god of Moab.
你可以注意到的是，在这个地方，她虽然是个摩押人，她却没有以摩押的这个崇拜的这个太阳神基摩来起誓。
But in the name of the Lord, Yahweh, the God of Israel.
她是以耶和华以色列的神来起誓说话。
I think that over those 10 years, Ruth saw something in Naomi.
我们大概可以猜想得出来，在过去的10年当中，路德从她的婆婆身上看到了些什么。
In the middle of the pain of losing her husband and both of her sons, Naomi still shows a character and a faith that was attractive to Ruth.
即使在失去了丈夫、失去了2个儿子这样的痛苦当中，拿俄米必定也已展现出无比坚韧的性格跟对神的这种信心，让这个摩押女子非常的渴望。
It was attractive enough that Ruth was willing to leave everything behind to stay with her.
路德看到这样的性格，她宁愿放弃所有来跟她的婆婆在一起。
And so Naomi's gracious life revealed the true God to Ruth and led her to put her faith in him too.
所以，因为拿俄米的对神的信心，也影响了路德，他开始认识神，而对神的信心。
And in turn, Ruth was able to support Naomi when they went through a time of loss.
所以之后呢，路德也能够回过来支持她的婆婆拿俄米。
In the middle of our trials and sufferings, as one of my friends likes to say, one of the greatest gifts and comforts God gives his people is his people.
就好像我的朋友说的，当我们在我们的患难当中，神给我们最好的礼物之一，就是有其他的弟兄姐妹与我们一起走过。
But we have to be willing to live that out.
但是我们必须要相信，也在实践出来。
Jesus said in John 13, "By this all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another."
就如同约翰福音13章35节说：“如果你们彼此相爱，众人就知道你们是我的门徒了。”
So we see Naomi as a woman who has experienced great loss and great love.
所以我们看到呢，拿俄米她经历了很多的伤痛，但是她也有很多的爱。
And she is also a woman who expresses deep bitterness and generous blessing.
她有很多的哀痛，因为她失去很多，但是她也很乐于来祝福别人。
As she returns to Bethlehem with Ruth, Naomi draws attention.
所以当拿俄米跟路德回到伯利恒之后呢，很多人注意到拿俄米回来了。
And Ruth 1:19 picks up the story.
在路德记的1章19节，我们可以看到他是怎么样描述的。
And when they came to Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them.
于是2人同行来到伯利恒。
And the women said, "Is this Naomi?"
他们到了伯利恒，合城的人就惊讶，妇女们说：“这是拿俄米吗？”
She said to them, "Do not call me Naomi, call me Mara, for the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me."
拿俄米对他们说：“不要叫我拿俄米，要叫我玛拉，因为全能者使我受了大苦。”
I went away full, and the Lord has brought me back empty.
我满满的出去，耶和华使我空空的回来，耶和华降祸于我。
Why call me Naomi, when the Lord has testified against me, and the Almighty has brought calamity upon me?
全能者使我受苦，既是这样，你们为何还叫我拿俄米呢？
So Naomi returned, and Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, with her, who returned from the country of Moab.
拿俄米和他的儿妇摩押女子路德从摩押地回来到伯利恒，正是动手割大麦的时候。
And they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of the barley harvest.
所以他们在收割的这个季节回到了伯利恒。
An interesting thing to me about different cultures is how we name our children.
在我学习文化这个不同的差异上面呢，一个很有趣的就是我们怎么样给孩子起名。
In America, we tend to place most importance on the sound of a name or who's had that name before.
所以，如果在美国的话，通常我们取名字是看那个听起来名字念起来好不好听，还是说在家族里面有其他的之前已经有人有这个名字。
My wife is named Ginger
我的太太的名字叫 Ginger，
because her dad liked the sound of French names.
因为她的爸爸觉得这个法国的名字 Ginger 听的这个发音听起来很好。
I am named David for my dad's best friend.
所以我的名字 David 是我爸爸最好的朋友的名字。
And our son is named Wilson in memory of my dad.
我儿子的名字是叫 Wilson， 是纪念我父亲的这个名字。
But in ancient Israel, just as in China and many other cultures today, it's the meaning of a name that is most important.
但是在以色列的时代，就好像在中国还有其他的文化呢，就是名字是因为它所代表的意义。
Our Chinese students thought it was hilarious that Ginger was named after a root.
我的中国的学生呢就觉得我太太的名字非常的有趣，因为 Ginger 是基本上是姜嘛，生姜、老姜。
And in fact, we chose the name of our daughter, Joelle,
我女儿的名字叫 Joelle，
not just because we liked the sound of the name, and not just because we had known some nice women by that name.
因为不只是因为说我们喜欢 Joelle 这个名字的发音，也是我们也有认识一对夫妇，他们的有这个名字跟我们是很熟识的。
But because it means the Lord is God.
也是因为 Joelle 这个字名字的意义就是神，我的主是我的神。
And it's the same as the prophet Joel, who Peter quoted in Acts chapter 2.
这个名字也是彼得在使徒行传第2章里面所提到的约尔这个字的女性的名字。
Naomi's name means pleasant.
所以拿俄米的名字，它的意思是甜愉悦的。
And she thinks that doesn't suit her anymore.
所以当拿俄米回到以色列之后呢，她觉得这个名字呢不符合她现在的情况。
So she tells her old friends and neighbors to call her Mara.
她告诉她的朋友还有她的邻居说叫她马拉，意思就是苦的意思。
She says, "For the Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me."
你说因为全能者已经使我受了大苦。
Now some people criticize Naomi here.
有些人可能会来评论拿俄米。
They say she's wrong to be bitter toward God.
就是说你怎么能够对神怀有悲愤的心情呢？
And she needs to have a more positive outlook.
你要对神有信心，要有正面的想法。
She needs to trust more.
她需要更多的来相信神。
But I wonder how often I allow myself to be this honest with God and with others.
我常常想说，我什么时候也是这样真实的面对我的神，能够让他知道我所有的情绪。
Naomi has reason to feel the way she does.
拿俄米可以想象，他经历了这么多，他有任何的权利来觉得他这些悲痛的心情。
She was taken away from her home to a foreign land where her husband and sons all died.
所以她远离了家乡，去到了一个异地，丈夫跟他的2个儿子都在那里过世了。
And now, after 10 years away, she's returning penniless and broken.
10年之后，她回到了她的家乡，身无分文，而且呢，非常的贫苦。
With an outcast of a daughter-in-law in tow.
而且还拖着一个异族的媳妇回来。
If you read through the Psalms or Lamentations or most of the prophets,
如果你来读诗篇，或者是耶利米哀歌，还是其他的先知书，
you'll see the honest cries of broken people who are willing to be transparent before God.
你会看到有许多的人在这些圣经里面呢，他们是如何对神打开他们的心，来对他们哭诉他们的苦情。
It's okay to be honest with God.
对神，我们是可以诚实的。
And I think it's better to go to Him in anguish than try to pretend that everything's okay.
我觉得其实到神的面前，你去宣泄你那内心的悲愤，是比来到神的面前却假装所有的事都是好的。
He knows if it's not. He knows your heart.
神知道我们的心，他知道我们其实过得并不好。
So we should be open with Him.
所以我们应该要对他敞开我们的心。
Because when we admit our pain before Him, we show a level of trust He can work with.
当我们愿意把我们的痛苦陈明在他的面前，这样子神知道他如何来医治我们。
Because even though God wants us to be open and honest about our pain,
即使神希望我们能够把我们的苦痛都诚实的让他知道，
He doesn't want to leave us there.
它并不是就是只把我们放在那里。
What's fascinating is that Naomi's name for God here
我们看到很特别的就是拿俄米如何称呼神。
It's the Almighty, in Hebrew, Shaddai.
所以就是全能者，在希伯来文是叫 Shaddai。
It's unusual.
是一个很特别、不常出现的一个称呼神的方式。
Scholars of the Bible note that in this form it's only used in poetry, except here.
所以在圣经的学者有注意到，称呼神为全能者，只有在诗篇这种类型的圣经里面出现，经文出现，但是这里是唯一不是在那些经文里面的。
And in the Hebrew, Ruth chapter 1 verse 20 is almost identical to Job chapter 27 verse 2.
在希伯来的原文当中呢，路德的1章12节跟约伯记的27章2节几乎是一模一样的。
You see that here. And Job again took up his discourse and said,
约伯接着说。
As God lives, who has taken away my right, and the Almighty, who has made my soul bitter.
神夺去我的理，全能者使我心中愁苦。
As long as my breath is in me and the Spirit of God is in my nostrils.
我指着永生的神起誓，我的生命尚在我里面，神所赐呼吸之气仍在我的鼻孔内。
My lips will not speak falsehood, and my tongue will not utter deceit.
我的嘴绝不说非义之言，我的舌也不说诡诈之语。
So what does this mean?
所以这是什么意思呢？
I think Naomi is quoting Job.
我想呢，拿俄米是在引用约伯的这段经文。
She is being poetic.
他是用这种诗歌体的方式来称呼神。
She is connecting herself to Job and his honesty in the middle of suffering.
他自己所面临的情况，其实跟约伯也是有很类似的情况，他把它连接在一起。
And you may remember that Job also held to the hope that God would ultimately come to his defense.
就像约伯在痛苦当中，他是如何寻求神的帮助，在神的里面的盼望。
In Job 19, he says, "For I know that my Redeemer lives, and at the last he will stand upon the earth."
在约伯记的19章第25节，我知道我的救赎者活着，末了必站立在地上。
And after my skin has been thus destroyed, yet in my flesh I shall see God.
我这皮肉灭绝之后，我必在肉体之外得见神。
Naomi quoted Job.
拿俄米提及了约伯。
And I think it was her way of being honest with God and with her old neighbors.
我相信是他一种对神诚实的方式，也是对他的邻居诚实的方式。
It was her way of pointing to a deeper truth and hope.
是他在用约伯的经文来表明他的觉得他的受苦当中有更深层的意义跟一个盼望。
I don't know why I have suffered like this.
意思是说，我虽然不知道为何我受苦了，
But I know that my Redeemer lives.
但是我知道我的救赎者活着。
Like Job, Naomi's honesty with God shows that she doesn't give up on her relationship with him.
也如同约伯一样，拿俄米及他的在神面前的诚实，表示了他不愿意放弃他与神的关系。
And even though she doesn't know why she is suffering,
即使他并不知道为什么他受到这么多的苦，
in the middle of her pain, she is still able to express genuine and generous blessing to those around her.
在这么多的痛苦当中，他仍然能够来对别人表示真诚的关心与祝福。
She says to her daughters-in-law, "May the Lord deal kindly with you as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord grant that you may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband."
就好像在我们刚才读的经节1章第8节说，拿俄米对2个儿妇说：“你们个人回娘家去吧，愿耶和华恩待你们，像你们恩待已死的人与我一样。愿耶和华使你们各在新妇家中得平安。”
She prays with hope for their future.
她为他们的未来来祷告。
She offers blessing in the midst of her pain.
她即使在痛苦当中，仍然祝福她的儿媳妇能够找到好的归宿。
And I think it is more genuine blessing because of her pain.
我认为，因为她的痛苦，她的祝福是更加的真实。
But Naomi's story, of course, doesn't end there.
但是拿俄米的故事还没有结束。
One chapter later, Naomi allows Ruth to go out into the fields to glean barley.
在第2章开始，我们会看到拿俄米让他路得去到麦田里面去拾穗。
She would gather the leftover grain after the harvesters went through, so that the women might somehow survive.
所以就是跟在这些丰收的人的后面呢，拾那剩下的麦子，这样他们还可以有食物吃。
And Ruth just happens to go to the field of Boaz, a relative of Naomi's late husband.
路得呢，恰恰好在波阿斯的田里面，是拿俄米的一个先生的一个亲戚。
Boaz takes notice of Ruth, and he blesses her with protection.
波阿斯呢注意到拿俄米，而且呢愿意来帮助他。
He provides for her abundantly and prays God's blessing on Ruth.
他就让路得可以去捡拾所有的麦子，他需要的麦子，而且用神来祝福，为他祷告。
Because of the faithful kindness that she has shown to Naomi.
因为波阿斯知道路得是怎么样的爱护着她的婆婆。
Ruth returns that night, and picture this, she has gleaned 13 kilos of barley.
所以想想看，路得回家的时候呢，带着13斤的这个大麦回家。
So as Ruth lays the sack before Naomi,
所以当这个路得把这一大捆的这个麦子放在拿俄米的面前，
and she says she has been working for Boaz,
然后告诉他说他是在波阿斯的田里面工作。
Naomi bursts out with a blessing and with praise.
所以拿俄米呢，他非常的开心的来赞美神。
May he be blessed by the Lord, whose kindness has not forsaken the living or the dead.
在第2章的20节，拿俄米对儿妇说：“愿那人蒙耶和华赐福，因为他不断的恩待活人死人。”
Why?
为什么？
Boaz is a kinsman redeemer.
因为呢，这个波阿斯是一个家族中的至亲。
This was a relative who, according to the law, could buy back the assets of a poor family member.
所以跟在法律上来讲呢，这个亲戚是有这个能力，可以来把他家族中很贫困的这些家族的人，帮他们买他们的东西回来。
He could marry the widow of a relative to preserve the name and heritage of the dead and provide for the living.
所以这也是一个人，他根据法律可以来娶寡妇的，他的亲戚当中寡妇的，做寡妇的，所以这个家族能够继续的延续下去。
I think Naomi is saying,
我想拿俄米在这里说的是
I see it now.
我知道了，
I didn't know why God allowed such bitterness and calamity.
我不知道为什么神让这么大的灾难痛苦发生在我的身上。
I didn't know why it seemed that his hand was against me.
我不知道为什么全能的手抵挡了我，
And I still don't know why.
我还是不知道为什么。
But I know now that God's kindness has not forsaken me.
但是我现在知道神的慈爱从未离开我，
He has not forsaken you, Ruth.
他也没有离开过路得，
He has not forsaken the memory of my husband or sons.
他也没有离开过我的先生和我的孩子。
I know that my Redeemer lives.
我知道我的救赎者活着。
Now, Naomi, excuse me, Naomi is many things.
拿俄米呢，是一个
She has many good things, but she is also a mother-in-law.
她有很多很好的个性，但她也是一个婆婆。
So she meddles a bit.
婆婆会干涉一下。
She pushes Ruth and Boaz together.
她希望路得呢跟波阿斯能够在一起。
And in fact, Ruth and Boaz do get married.
但是你如果继续看路得记呢，你可以看到路得跟波阿斯最后结婚了。
And Boaz redeems not only his wife, but also Naomi.
所以波阿斯不仅呢帮助了他的太太，他也帮助了拿俄米。
And Ruth and Boaz go on to have a son, Obed.
路得跟波阿斯呢，他们有一个孩子叫做厄贝德。
The women of Bethlehem say to Naomi,
在 4章14节里面，这些村中的女人对拿俄米说
Blessed be the Lord, who has not left you this day without a redeemer, and may his name be renowned in Israel.
耶和华是应当称颂的，因为今日他没有撇下你。
16. Then Naomi took the child and laid him on her lap and became his nurse. And the women of the neighborhood gave him a name, saying, A son has been born to Naomi.
16节说，拿俄米就把孩子抱入怀中，做他的养母。邻舍的妇人说，拿俄米得了孩子了，就给那孩子起名叫做俄贝德。
I don't know that Naomi ever really understood why she went through such suffering.
我不知道拿俄米是不是真的到最后知道了他为什么会受这么多的痛苦。
In this fallen world, it's a very difficult question to answer for any specific situation.
在我们这个犯罪的时代，其实这是一个非常难回答的问题。
Especially while we're going through it.
特别是我们正走在患难跟痛苦当中的人来说。
But what we do know is that God can use our suffering for our ultimate good.
但是我们知道的是，神会在我们的痛苦当中呢，继续的来恩待我们。
Paul tells us in Romans chapter 8.
保罗在罗马书8章这样子说。
For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory that is to be revealed to us.
8章18节说，我想现在的苦楚，若比起将来要显于我们的荣耀，就不足介意了。
Then verse 26, the Spirit helps us in our weakness, for we do not know what to pray for as we ought, but the Spirit Himself intercedes for us with groanings too deep for words.
在26节说，况且我们的软弱有圣灵帮助，我们本不晓得当怎样祷告，只是圣灵亲自用说不出来的叹息替我们祷告。
And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to His purpose.
28节说，我们晓得万事都互相效力，叫爱神的人得益处，就是按他旨意被召的人。
For this reason, Paul challenges us even to rejoice in our suffering.
因此，保罗鼓励我们在患难当中喜乐。
In Romans 5, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope, and hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit, who has been given to us. For while we were still weak, at the right time Christ died for the ungodly.
罗马书5章3节到6节，不但如此，就是在患难中也是欢欢喜喜的，因为知道患难生忍耐，忍耐生老练，老练生盼望，盼望不至于羞耻，因为所赐给我们的圣灵在神的爱浇灌在我们心里，因我们还软弱的时候，基督就按所定的日期为罪人死。
As the great preacher Charles Spurgeon said,
就如同这个很有名的这个布道家司布真说的
Jesus is our glorious Boaz.
耶稣是我们荣耀的波阿斯
He is the Redeemer all other Redeemers point to.
他是所有那些能够帮助拯救人的救赎主
And in fact, we have a suffering Redeemer.
而且我们的救赎者他曾经遭难
We have a Messiah who took on the ultimate suffering for our sake to restore our relationship to God.
我们的弥赛亚他为了我们的罪而被钉在十字架上受痛苦，所以我们才能够与神和好。
In the garden, he begged his father to take the cup of suffering from him.
在客西马尼园当中，他求神能够把这杯挪去。
And on the cross, he cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?
在十字架上，他哭喊着说：“我的神，我的神，你为何离弃我？”
Jesus understands our bitterness and pain, even if we don't.
即使我们不知道为什么我们受苦了，耶稣明白。
And at least in Naomi's case, we have the gift of seeing how God was able to weave even her pain into His grand story for mankind.
所以至少在拿俄米的这个故事当中，我们可以看得到神是如何在透过拿俄米的这个痛苦呢，其实是成为了人类的救赎的一个伟大的计划的一部分。
Because we're told that Obed becomes the father of Jesse.
因为我们在圣经上以后，我们就会看到，厄贝德呢，他是耶西的父亲。
who becomes the father of David.
耶西是大卫的父亲。
And at the beginning of the Gospel of Matthew,
在马太福音刚开始的时候说，
we learn that Ruth is counted among the ancestors of Jesus.
我们看到路德呢，其实是耶稣的家族族谱当中被列名的。
God used Naomi's loss to show true love.
所以神透过拿俄米的这些个人的痛苦呢，来显现他全能的爱。
He used Naomi's bitterness to strengthen her blessing.
他让他透过他的所经历到的这些哀痛呢，让他的为别人祝福的心更加的坚定。
And he made her a blessing to the whole world through that baby on her lap.
也透过他能够还有他的厄贝德之后他的后代厄贝德显现出神怎么样使用路德成为他祝福的器皿。
That baby who would be grandfather to David, ancestor to the Messiah.
这个厄贝德是大卫王的祖父，他是弥赛亚的祖先。
And so I ask, where are you today?
所以我先想问你，你今天的情况是如何？
Are you in Moab, feeling the pain of loss?
你是在摩押地里面经历的这些痛苦，还有失去的感觉，失去很多吗？
I pray that God will show you love in the middle of it.
我祷告神能够让你在这个当中看到他的爱。
Are you bitter in your heart today?
你今天的心很悲愤吗？
I pray that you will find strength to be honest with God.
我为你祷告，你可以跟神诚实的打开你的心。
I pray that you will bless others and see His hand working for good even in your pain.
我希望你能够看到呢，神怎么样透过你来祝福别人，即使是你的痛苦。
Are you experiencing God's blessing today?
你经历到神的祝福吗？今天，
I pray that He will give you a song of praise.
我祷告你用赞美的诗歌来回应他。
And I pray that others will know His grace in this world and the hope that is to come.
也透过你，别人能够更加知道神的慈爱，还有他即将要给我们未来的平安跟盼望。